Robert looked at his restaurant from the big window of Space Station Gamma 7. His restaurant, Earth's Kitchen, was busy as always. Waiters moved between tables, carrying plates of food. Cooks worked at their stations, making dishes from Earth that both humans and aliens loved to eat. The owner was 50 years old, with gray hair starting to show. He wore a clean white uniform and had built this place 15 years ago. Now it was one of the best restaurants on the space station. But something was wrong, and Robert could feel it. He watched his workers closely. There was Blue, who came from a race called the Galaxians. Blue had 4 arms and skin that glowed like soft blue light. Blue was very good at carrying many plates at once. Then there was Stone, who worked in the kitchen. Stone looked like walking crystal and could control heat perfectly to cook food. These alien workers did their jobs well, just like the human staff, Mike, Lisa, and Jack. But Robert had started to notice small problems. Some human customers would only want human waiters to serve them. Mike, the manager, would give the best sections of the restaurant to human workers. Lisa would make the alien workers do the harder cleaning jobs. These things were small, but they were wrong. Mr. Thompson. Blue came up to him. Is something wrong? Robert smiled at Blue, who had worked here for 7 years. Just thinking. Blue, have you ever felt that people treat you differently here? Blue's glowing skin became a bit darker, showing sadness. Sometimes, sir, but it's okay. I'm happy to have a job. This made Robert upset. He had not built this restaurant for people to be unfair to each other. Earth's Kitchen was supposed to bring different species together, not push them apart. He watched as Mike told a new alien worker to clean the garbage area, while a new human worker got an easy job greeting customers. That night, after everyone left, Robert checked the security videos. He saw many unfair things he had missed during the day. The worst was when Mike messed up an alien customer's food on purpose and blamed Stone for it. Robert made a call to his friend Tom, who worked with special technology. Tom, I need your help. Can you make me a hologram disguise that makes me look like a homeless person? Why do you want that? Tom asked, surprised. I need to see how my workers really treat people when they think nobody is watching them. Robert said, sometimes you have to become someone else to see the truth. Tom agreed to help but warned him to be careful. People can surprise you, Rob, and not always in a good way. That's what I want to find out, Robert said. He looked at his empty restaurant after the call. Soon he would know what kind of place it really was. He made plans to tell everyone he was going to Earth for supplies. This would give him time to test his workers without them knowing. Robert touched the smooth surface of his desk and looked at the work schedule for next week. Everything had to look normal. In the quiet restaurant, he could see his reflection in the dark windows. Soon that reflection would show someone very different. Now I'll see who you really are, he said quietly to his empty restaurant. He knew this test would show him the truth about his workers, both the good and the bad. It was time to find out if Earth's Kitchen was really the fair place he had always wanted it to be. 3 days after his decision, Robert stood in Tom's workshop on level 3 of Space Station Gamma 7. The room was full of computers and strange machines that made soft beeping sounds. On the walls, different holograms showed people and aliens of all kinds. Stand still, Tom said, moving a scanner around Robert. A hologram needs to match your exact size. Tom wore thick glasses and kept moving around Robert like a bee, checking numbers on his tablet. Robert tried not to move. How long will the disguise last? The power cell will work for about 16 hours each day, Tom explained, typing on his computer. But you'll need to charge it every night. And remember, it can't change your voice. You'll have to sound different on your own. Robert nodded. He had been practicing talking in a rougher way. He had also watched videos of how people acted when they had nowhere to go. He wanted his disguise to be perfect. Now, let's create your new look, Tom said, showing Robert a big screen. What kind of homeless person do you want to be? Robert thought carefully. Someone who looks like they've had a hard life. Maybe an old spaceship worker who lost his job. But not too scary. I want people to feel they can help me. Tom worked on the computer, and a picture started to form. The man on the screen looked about 60 years old, with messy white hair and an untidy beard. His clothes were old but not completely broken. His face showed sadness but also kindness. "How's this?" Tom asked. "Perfect," Robert said. "He looks like someone who needs help but still has hope." Tom pressed more buttons, and suddenly a small device appeared from one of his machines. It looked like a simple metal button. "Put this on your shirt," Tom said. "When you press it, the hologram will turn on. Press it again to turn it off." Robert put the button on his shirt and pressed it. A warm feeling went through his body, and when he looked in the mirror, he saw a completely different person. The old man in the mirror moved when he moved, but looked nothing like Robert Thompson, the successful restaurant owner. "Amazing," Robert whispered, touching his face. He could feel his real smooth skin, but the mirror showed a rough beard. "It even shows up perfectly in the mirror." "That's not all," Tom said. "I added some special features. The hologram will look a bit fuzzy on security cameras, just like real holograms do. This way, nobody will suspect it's too perfect, and it will change slightly as you move, just like real clothes would." Robert practiced walking around the room. The old clothes in his reflection moved naturally. Even the small holes in his jacket seemed to shift with his movements. "How does it handle things like eating or drinking?" "The hologram knows when to show your mouth open or closed," Tom explained. "It will look like you're really eating. But remember, don't get it wet. A few drops are okay, but too much water will make it flicker." Robert spent the next hour learning how to use his disguise. He practiced sitting, standing, and moving like someone who was tired and had nowhere to go. Tom watched and gave him advice. "Remember to move slower," Tom said, "and don't stand up straight. Your character would be tired and sore from sleeping in uncomfortable places." Finally, Robert felt ready. He took off the disguise and carefully put the button in his pocket. "Thank you, Tom. This is exactly what I needed." "Just be careful, Tom warned. "And remember, the truth you find might hurt." Robert left the workshop thinking about his plan. Tomorrow, he would tell his staff he was going to Earth for supplies. Then his test would begin. He would finally see how his workers treated those who needed help the most. In his pocket, the small button felt heavy with purpose. It wasn't just a disguise anymore. It was a tool for finding the truth. Robert knew that after using it, his restaurant would never be the same. He just hoped the changes would be for the better. The next day, Robert stood in a quiet corner of Space Station Gamma 7, his heart beating fast. He had told his staff he was leaving for Earth, and now it was time to begin his test. He took out the small button from his pocket and pressed it. The warm feeling came again, and he knew the hologram was working. He looked down at his hands, now appearing old and rough. His clean clothes were replaced by the image of worn-out work clothes. Taking a deep breath, he started walking toward Earth's kitchen. The restaurant was busy with the lunch crowd. Through the front windows, Robert could see Blue moving between tables with perfect grace. Mike stood at the host station, wearing his usual proud smile. The sight made Robert nervous. This was his restaurant, but today he would enter it as a stranger. He shuffled through the door, keeping his head slightly down like Tom had taught him. The wonderful smell of cooking food hit him, making his stomach growl even though he wasn't really hungry. Mike looked up and frowned. "Can I help you?" His voice was cold. Just looking for some warm food," Robert said in the rough voice he had practiced. Used to work the cargo ships, but he let his voice trail off, showing shame. "This is a proper restaurant, sir," Mike said firmly, "not a charity. Perhaps you should try the station's community kitchen on level 5. Robert felt his face get hot under the hologram. He had never heard Mike speak to anyone like this before. He was about to turn away when Blue appeared nearby. "Mike," Blue said softly, their skin glowing a gentle purple color that showed concern. "We have extra food from the lunch special. It would just go to waste recycling." Mike turned to Blue with an angry look. "That's not your decision to make. Mr. Thompson wouldn't want." "Mr. Thompson believes in helping people," Blue said firmly. Their forearms were steady, showing they weren't afraid. "He always says food brings people together." Robert felt proud of Blue in that moment. Those were indeed his words, spoken many times over the years. He hadn't known Blue had been listening so carefully. Stone, who was working in the kitchen, called out through the service window. "Blue is right. I made too much soup today anyway." The Crystal Bean's voice sounded like quiet bells. Mike looked around, clearly unhappy. Some customers were watching now. "Fine," he said sharply. "But he eats in the corner, and he leaves right after." Blue guided Robert to a small table in the back. Their glowing skin had turned to a warm yellow color, showing happiness. "Please sit, sir. I'll bring you some soup and bread." Robert sat down, watching his restaurant from this new angle. He saw things he had never noticed before. How some customers gave him uncomfortable looks. How Lisa, another server, whispered to Mike and pointed at him. But he also saw Stone preparing a bowl of soup with the same care they used for paying customers. Blue returned quickly with a steaming bowl and fresh bread. "Careful, it's hot," they said kindly. "Stone makes the best soup on the station." "Thank you," Robert said quietly, letting his voice shake a little. "You're very kind. Everyone needs help sometimes," Blue replied. Their second set of arms adjusted the napkin and spooned perfectly. "Please enjoy your meal." As Robert ate the soup, which was indeed very good, he watched his restaurant with new eyes. From this corner, he could see everything. He saw how Mike kept glancing at him with dislike. He saw how Blue checked on him just as carefully as their other tables. He saw how some customers moved their chairs to face away from him. The test had only just begun, but already Robert was learning so much about his restaurant and the people in it. Some of what he learned made him sad, but some things, like Blue's kindness, gave him hope. 2 days after his first visit, Robert returned to Earth's kitchen in his disguise. This time he came during the quiet afternoon hours, when the lunch rush was over but dinner hadn't begun. His hologram showed the same tired old man, but today he made himself look even more worn out. As he entered, he saw Jack, one of his human servers, talking with Blue near the kitchen. Mike wasn't around. Robert had checked the schedule and knew this was Mike's day off. When Jack noticed him, Robert expected the young man to act like Mike had. Instead, Jack walked over with a friendly smile. "Hey there. You're the spacer who came in the other day, right? Blue told me about you." Robert nodded, keeping his eyes down. "Yes. The soup was very kind of you all." "Well, you're in luck," Jack said, lowering his voice. "Stone made fresh bread today, and we got some extra. Would you like to join us? We're just having our staff meal." This surprised Robert completely. Staff meals were supposed to be quick breaks between shifts. Inviting an outsider wasn't normal. Blue came over too, their skin glowing a warm welcome. "Please join us. Stone is trying a new recipe today." Robert followed them to the break room at the back of the restaurant. He had built this room himself, but entering it as a homeless man felt strange. Stone was already there, their crystal form creating pretty light patterns on the walls. "Welcome," Stone said, their voice chiming softly. "I hope you like spicy food. It's an old recipe from my home world." The break room table had several dishes on it. There was the fresh bread Stone had made, some kind of colorful stew, and various side dishes. Robert noticed there were extra chairs already set up. "We've been hoping you'd come back," Blue explained, using their 4 arms to serve everyone. "After you left last time, we talked about how we could help people like you." Jack nodded, breaking the bread to share. "Yeah, we figured there must be more people on the station who need a good meal. So we started saving extra food instead of putting it all in recycling." Robert felt his throat get tight with emotion. Won't you get in trouble? The manager. Mike doesn't need to know everything. Stone said, their crystal surface shifting colors slightly. And Lisa's not here today either. We're careful. As they ate, Robert learned that these three, Blue, Jack, and Stone, had started a small kindness program of their own. They kept track of extra food, took turns staying late, and found ways to help people without causing trouble. It's not just food, Blue explained, their skin glowing proudly. We listen to people's stories. Sometimes that helps just as much as a meal. Yeah, Jack added, like yesterday, we met someone who lost their job at the station's repair dock. I knew they were hiring at the cargo bay, so I told them where to apply. Robert watched them work together, human and aliens, all trying to help in their own ways. Stone would cook extra food carefully, so it wasn't obvious. Blue used their 4 arms to quickly pack away leftover food when needed. Jack knew all the station's job openings and opportunities for help. Why do you do all this? Robert asked, trying to keep his voice rough despite his pride in his workers. Stone's crystal surface sparkled thoughtfully. The owner of this place, Mr. Thompson, always says that food brings people together. He treats us all equally here, humans and aliens. We thought he'd want us to help others the same way, even though he's away right now. Blue added, their skin glowing with respect. We try to run things the way he would want. Robert had to look down at his bowl to hide his emotions. His disguise might hide his face, but it couldn't hide tears. He had worried about his restaurant, but here was proof that at least some of his workers had learned the most important lesson he'd tried to teach. Kindness matters more than anything else. On his 4th visit to Earth's kitchen, Robert knew something was wrong as soon as he walked in. Lisa was at the front desk, and Mike stood nearby with his arms crossed. Their faces showed they had been waiting for him. We need to talk, Mike said loudly, walking toward Robert in his disguise. You can't keep coming here. This is a high-class restaurant, not a soup kitchen. Robert noticed how some customers looked uncomfortable. Others pretended not to notice what was happening. He started to back away, but Lisa moved to block the door. Wait, Blue's voice came from behind Mike. The Glaxian server hurried forward, their skin flashing worried colors. He's not causing any trouble. Not causing trouble. Lisa laughed unkindly. Look at how customers react when he comes in. 2 people asked to move tables yesterday because they didn't want to sit near him. Jack came out from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. So what? He's just trying to eat. We have plenty of food. Mike turned to Jack with an angry face. I know what you 3 have been doing. Giving away food, staying late, using the break room for your little charity project. It stops now. But Blue started to speak, but Mike cut them off. No, Mr. Thompson is away, and I'm in charge. This is a business, not a charity. If this keeps up, I'll have to tell him about all the food you've been giving away. Robert watched the scene carefully. He saw how some of his regular customers looked surprised at Mike's anger. He noticed how Stone stood in the kitchen doorway, their crystal form dark with concern. Actually, an old woman spoke up from a nearby table. I like seeing how they help people. It makes me proud to eat here. Me too, said another customer, a young alien with green scales. It shows this place has heart. Mike's face got red. This isn't about heart. It's about running a proper restaurant. And you, he pointed at Robert in his disguise, need to leave and never come back. Blue moved to stand between Mike and Robert. All 4 of their arms were stretched out, like they were protecting him. If he leaves, I leave too. Same here, Jack said, moving to stand with Blue. Stone's voice rang out from the kitchen, clear as bells. And me. We either help people together or not at all. Lisa looked worried now. Mike, maybe we should. No. Mike shouted. I'm the manager here. You all work for me, and... Actually, a new voice said, they work for me. Everyone turned to look. In the doorway stood what seemed to be Robert Thompson himself. Robert felt confused for a moment before he remembered. Tom had mentioned making a hologram of him too, in case it was needed. The fake Robert walked in, looking exactly like him. Tom must have been watching and decided to help. The hologram walked up to Mike and spoke firmly. "I came back early because customers called me. They told me about the wonderful things my staff has been doing to help people, and about how you've been treating those same people, Mike." Mike's face went pale. "Mr. Thompson, I was just trying to protect the restaurant's image." "The image of my restaurant," the hologram of Robert said clearly, "is exactly what Blue, Jack, and Stone have been showing. A place where everyone is welcome, and kindness matters." Robert watched from his disguise as Mike stepped back, looking shocked. Lisa had moved away from the door. The customers were smiling now, and Blue's skin was glowing with happy colors. The hologram of Robert turned to look at everyone. "From now on, we're going to make helping others part of what we do here. Does anyone have a problem with that?" Nobody spoke against it, not even Mike. After the surprise appearance of Robert's hologram, things changed at Earth's Kitchen. Robert continued his visits in disguise, watching these changes carefully. He needed to see if people were being kind because they wanted to, or just because they thought he was watching. A week had passed. Today, Robert sat in his usual corner table, watching the lunch crowd. Mike was different now. He spoke politely to everyone, but Robert could see his smile wasn't real. Lisa tried harder to be nice, but she still made faces when she thought no one was looking. "Here's your soup," Blue said, bringing him a steaming bowl. Their skin glowed warmly. "Stone made it special today. Extra vegetables." "Thank you," Robert said in his rough voice. Things seemed different here lately. Blue used their lower arms to adjust the napkin while their upper arms placed bread on the table. Yes, after Mr. Thompson came back early and saw what was happening, he made new rules. "We're supposed to help people now." Robert watched Blue's face carefully. "Do you like the new rules?" "They're not really new to me," Blue said, their skin pulsing with gentle colors. "Some of us were already helping. Now we just don't have to hide it." From his corner, Robert saw Stone wave through the kitchen window. The crystal being had started making extra food openly now, not just in secret. Jack walked by with a big smile, carrying food to another table where someone who looked poor sat, but Robert also noticed other things. When Mike thought nobody was watching, he wrote down how much food was given away, like he was keeping track to complain later. Lisa would serve the poor customers quickly, trying to make them leave faster. "More soup?" asked a voice. Robert looked up to see a new server, Tom. This was a surprise. He hadn't hired any new staff. Then he remembered Tom, his friend who made the holograms, had asked to help watch the restaurant too. "Yes, please," Robert said, staying in character. Tom winked at him secretly and spoke quietly. "Interesting things happening here. Mike called the station authorities yesterday, trying to report the restaurant for breaking rules. But there aren't any rules against helping people." Robert felt angry hearing this, but he kept his face calm. He watched Mike more carefully after that. The manager was talking to fancy customers, pointing at the people eating free food, shaking his head like he was apologizing for them being there. A young alien child walked into the restaurant, looking hungry and scared. Robert watched to see what would happen. Blue noticed first, moving quickly to help. But before they could reach the child, Mike stepped forward. "Welcome," Mike said in a loud voice, clearly making sure others could hear. "Are you hungry? We help anyone who needs food here." The child nodded shyly. Mike led them to a table, still speaking too loudly, like he was putting on a show. Robert wrote something in a small notebook he carried. He needed to remember this. Later that afternoon, when the restaurant was quiet, Robert saw something that made him smile. Blue, Stone, and Jack were teaching the other staff how to pack leftover food properly. Even Lisa was listening, though she didn't look happy about it. "The owner wants us to help," Lisa said with a sigh, "so we might as well do it right." "No," Stone said, their crystal form glowing gently. "We should help because it's right, not because someone tells us to." Robert wrote that down too. After a week of watching, he was starting to see who really understood what he had always wanted his restaurant to be, and who was just pretending to change. Soon it would be time to reveal the truth, but not quite yet. He needed to be completely sure about everyone first. It happened during the busiest dinner hour, 2 weeks after Robert had started his test. The restaurant was full of customers when emergency alarms started ringing throughout Space Station Gamma 7. Red lights flashed in the corridors outside. "Attention all residents," a voice announced over the station speakers. "Section 12 has experienced a cooling system failure. All residents from that section must evacuate immediately to safe zones." Robert, sitting in his usual corner in his disguise, knew Section 12 was where many poor people lived. These were the station's smallest, cheapest rooms. He watched to see how his staff would react. People started coming into the restaurant, looking worried and tired. Many wore old clothes and carried small bags with their belongings. Some had children with them. The station's emergency plan said restaurants should help during evacuations, but didn't say they had to feed everyone for free. Mike stood at the front door, looking nervous. "We can't fit all these people," he said. "We have paying customers to think about." But Blue was already moving tables around. Their 4 arms worked quickly, making space for more people to sit. "We can fit more if we move things." "The kitchen isn't prepared for this many people," Lisa complained. "We'll run out of food." Stone's voice rang out from the kitchen. "I can make simple soup and bread. We have enough ingredients if we use everything." "But who will pay for all this?" Mike demanded. "Mr. Thompson will be angry if we give away this much food." Jack stepped forward. "Mr. Thompson believes in helping people. You know that." More people kept coming in. Some regular customers looked annoyed at being crowded. A few asked for their bills and left. Mike wrote down their names, muttering about lost business. "If you help these people," Mike warned the staff, "you might lose your jobs. This is too much. This isn't what we agreed to." Blue's skin glowed with determination. "Then I'll lose my job. But I won't turn away people who need help." "Me neither," Stone said, already cooking huge pots of soup. "Same here," Jack agreed, bringing out more chairs. Robert watched as his staff split into 2 groups. Blue, Stone, Jack, and a few others worked hard to help everyone. They made food, found spaces for people to sit, and helped calm crying children. Mike, Lisa, and some others stood back. They kept talking about rules and money and how this would ruin the restaurant. Mike took pictures with his tablet, saying he would show them to Mr. Thompson as proof of what happened. A very old alien woman came in, looking lost. All the seats were full now. Before anyone could stop him, Mike stepped forward. "I'm sorry, but we're completely full," he said firmly. "You'll have to go somewhere else." But Blue had seen what was happening. They quickly gave their own break room chair to the old woman. "Please sit here," they said kindly. "I can stand while I work." The old woman's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, child," she said to Blue. "You remind me of my own children back home." Robert watched all this from his corner. He saw how some staff members worked without stopping, not caring how tired they got. He saw others who helped only a little, and some who didn't help at all. He wrote everything down in his notebook. Tom, still pretending to be a new server, came to his table. "I think it's time," he whispered very quietly. "You've seen what you needed to see." Robert nodded slowly. Tomorrow, he would show everyone who he really was. But tonight, he would stay in his disguise and help however he could. He stood up and walked to Stone in the kitchen. "Need another pair of hands?" he asked in his rough voice. Stone's crystal form brightened. "Always. There are aprons by the door." And so Robert worked in his own kitchen as a stranger, helping his staff take care of those in need, watching who chose kindness when it was hardest to give. The morning after the emergency, Robert called a staff meeting at Earth's Kitchen. Everyone was tired from a long night of helping evacuees, but they all came. Mike arrived first, carrying his tablet with all his pictures and notes about the problems at the restaurant. "Mr. Thompson will be back today," Mike told everyone with a smile. "Then things will go back to normal. No more giving away all our food." Blue sat quietly in the corner, their skin a tired gray color. Stone stood near the kitchen door, their crystal form dim from working all night. Jack and the other kind staff members sat together, looking worried but not sorry for what they had done. "I have all the evidence right here," Mike said, holding up his tablet. "Pictures of how crowded it got, lists of customers who left, how much food we gave away. Mr. Thompson will see that." "That what?" a rough voice asked. Everyone turned to look. There in the doorway stood the old homeless man they had seen so many times. Some people looked confused. Why was he at a staff meeting? The old man walked to the front of the room. He reached up and touched a small button on his shirt. Suddenly, the image of the homeless man disappeared. In his place stood Robert Thompson. The room went completely silent. Mike's tablet fell from his hands. Lisa's mouth dropped open. Blue's skin flashed with surprise, turning bright yellow. But you were away," Mike stammered. "You were on Earth." "No," Robert said clearly. "I was right here, watching my restaurant and my staff. Watching to see who you really are when you think nobody important is looking." He pulled out his small notebook. "I saw everything. I saw who helped people because they wanted to, and who helped only because they thought they had to. I saw who counted the cost of kindness, and who gave without counting." Robert turned to Blue, Stone, and Jack. "I saw you three start helping people in secret, even when you thought I might not approve. You showed me what this restaurant should be." Blue's skin glowed with happiness. Stone's crystal form sparkled. Jack smiled proudly. Then Robert turned to Mike. "I also saw you take pictures and make lists, planning to get people in trouble for being kind. I heard you call the station authorities, trying to stop us from helping people." Mike's face turned red. "I was just trying to protect the business." "No," Robert said firmly. "You were trying to protect your idea of what a fancy restaurant should be. But that's not what Earth's Kitchen is about. It never was." He walked around the room, looking at each person. This place was built to bring people together. All people, rich and poor, human and alien. Some of you understood that without being told. Some of you fought against it. And some of you, he looked at Lisa and others who had helped just a little, weren't sure what to believe. Lisa looked down at her hands. "We were afraid of losing our jobs," she said quietly. "I understand fear," Robert said more gently. "But today, everyone has a choice. Earth's Kitchen is going to change. We'll still be a good restaurant, but we'll also help people who need it. Anyone who doesn't want to be part of that can leave now, with a good recommendation for another job." Mike stood up quickly. "This is crazy. You'll ruin everything." "No," Stone said from their place by the kitchen. "We were fuller than ever last night. People want to eat at a place that cares. And we made new friends," Blue added, their skin glowing brightly. "Some of the people we helped, they want to work here now. They want to help others too." Robert smiled. "That's exactly what I hoped would happen. So, who wants to be part of the new Earth's Kitchen?" Owned by one. Hands went up. Even Lisa raised her hand slowly. Only Mike and two others kept their hands down. "Well then," Robert said, "let's talk about our new future." 3 months after Robert's revelation, Earth's Kitchen had become a very different place. The restaurant was busier than ever, but not just with its usual customers. People from all parts at Space Station Gamma 7 came to eat, work, and help. Robert stood at his favorite window, watching the stars like he had done the day he decided to test his staff. But now, when he turned to look at his restaurant, he saw something beautiful. Blue, now the new manager, moved gracefully between tables. Their skin glowed with happy colors as they trained two new servers, both former homeless people who had shown great kindness to others, even when they had nothing themselves. "Blue is a natural leader," Stone said, coming to stand beside Robert. The crystal being's form sparkled with pride. "They understand what this place is really about." Robert nodded. After Mike and the others left, he had promoted Blue to manager. It was the easiest decision he had ever made. "And how is the new kitchen program going?" Stone's surface rippled with excitement. "Wonderful. We're teaching cooking skills to anyone who wants to learn. 3 of our students already got jobs at other restaurants." The kitchen was Stone's project now. They had turned part of it into a small cooking school, teaching people who needed work how to cook. It gave people both food and a way to earn money for themselves. Jack walked by, carrying a box of supplies. After the changes, he had asked to be in charge of their new helping program. He kept track of who needed what kind of help and made sure they got it. "Hey, Mr. Thompson," Jack called out. "Remember that old alien woman from the evacuation night? She's teaching language classes in the break room now. Says it's her way of paying kindness forward." Robert smiled. The break room had become a meeting place in the quiet afternoon hours. People taught each other skills, helped fill out job applications, or just talked and made friends. Even Lisa had changed. After choosing to stay, she had worked hard to understand the new way of doing things. Now she was often the first to notice when someone needed help. "Mr. Thompson," a small voice asked. Robert turned to see a young human girl standing nearby. She was wearing a clean but old dress. "Blue said I should talk to you. I want to help in the kitchen, like Stone helped me." Robert knelt down to her level. "Of course, Stone is a very good teacher. But first, would you like some lunch?" The girl smiled shyly. "I don't have any money." "That's okay," Robert said kindly. "At Earth's Kitchen, we believe in helping first. The money will come later." As the girl went with Stone to get food and learn about the kitchen, Robert checked the day's numbers. The restaurant was making more money than ever. Regular customers loved the new feeling of the place. Many paid extra, asking the restaurant to use the money to feed others. "It's amazing, isn't it?" Tom said, appearing beside Robert. His friends still helped sometimes, though they didn't need the holograms anymore. All it took was seeing the truth about people. "No," Robert said thoughtfully. "All it took was giving people a chance to show their true hearts. Some disappointed me, but many more made me proud." He watched as Blue used all 4 arms to show the new servers how to carry plates. He saw Stone patiently teaching the young girl how to make soup. He watched Jack helping someone fill out a job application, while Lisa served them a hot meal. The station's stars spun slowly outside the window, but inside Earth's Kitchen, something much more important was spinning. A web of kindness that grew stronger every day. Robert's test had ended, but its effects would last forever. "The best part," Robert said to Tom with a smile. "We're just getting started."